They laughed at you, didn't they? They underestimated your silence. They thought your patience meant weakness. They thought because you didn't speak, you didn't think. But what they didn't know a broken bar is that you were watching the entire time. You were studying, listening, absorbing, and every moment they thought they were ahead of you a broken bar you were taking notes on how to surpass them. This world doesn't reward noise. It rewards strategy. The ones who win aren't always the loudest. They're the ones who move in silence, with precision. They're the ones who wait, prepare, and then strike with perfect timing. You don't need to be the most talented. You don't need to be the most connected. You just need to follow the rules of the mind, rules of discipline, rules that no one teaches because few have the patience to learn them. But today, you will. Silence is a weapon, not a weakness. They think silence means nothing is happening. They assume the quiet man is uncertain, unprepared, or lost. But silence, when chosen with intent, is one of the most powerful tools a person can possess. It is not the absence of thought, it is the sharpening of it. In a world addicted to noise, the one who can remain silent holds the advantage, because he hears what others miss. He sees beyond words, into the truth behind the performance. The loud man often reveals himself. He throws his hand on the table too early. He wants attention, validation, and control through volume. But the silent one, he holds his cards. He lets others expose their fears, their insecurities, their strategy, all while saying nothing. And when it matters most, he makes one move that changes everything, not because he was loud, but because he was precise. In conversations, silence breaks people. Most don't know how to sit with it. They panic and fill the space, and in doing so, they give themselves away. They over-explain. They confess. They say things they never meant to say, all because they needed to be heard, while the silent person needed only to listen. And from that listening, comes power, comes strategy, comes clarity. In arguments, silence disarms. It removes fuel from the fire. The person yelling expects a reaction. They expect your ego to come forward, to defend, to fight back. But silence, it confuses them. It frustrates them, because it forces them to hear themselves aloud, unstable, exposed. When you don't respond, they are forced to sit with their own chaos. You maintain your power by not letting their fire ignite your forest. In negotiations, silence speaks louder than any word. When you remain quiet after someone makes an offer or a demand, it creates pressure. They start to wonder if they offered too little, said too much, pushed too hard. That pause, just a few seconds of calm, unreadable silence here can shift the power dynamic entirely, because the one who controls the space between words often controls the outcome of the conversation. In relationships, silence reveals. When you step back, people show who they are. If they chase chaos, they'll find someone else to argue with. If they value peace, they'll adjust. But your silence isn't passive, it's a filter. It lets you see people for what they are, not what they pretend to be. When you're engaged, you learn who truly listens, who respects your energy, and who just wants noise to feel alive. Silence allows time for reflection. Every wise decision comes from space to think, to observe, to weigh options. The one who rushes to speak often misses what's important. But when you remain silent, you see layers others miss. You notice the tension in someone's body, the hesitation in their eyes, the slight inconsistency in their words. These are things you don't catch when you're too busy responding. The disciplined mind doesn't speak to fill time. It speaks with purpose. When you choose to speak only when necessary, your words carry weight. People listen more when you speak less, because they know it's not just noisy, it's substance. And when your words are rare but powerful, you become respected not just for what you say, but for what you choose not to say. In times of crisis, silence is control. The one who can sit calmly amidst chaos is the one others look to. While others scramble, shout, and make erratic decisions, the silent man breathes, assesses, and moves with intention. He doesn't react, he responds. And his response comes from a place of clarity, not panic. Silence also protects you. Every word you say can be used, twisted, misinterpreted, but what you don't say cannot be turned against you. It's not weakness, it's restraint. You don't need to tell everyone your next move. You don't need to announce your goals, your plans, your struggles. The silent path is the protected path. Let others reveal themselves while you protect your mission. There's also a power in not needing to explain yourself. When you're rooted in your own truth, you don't chase approval. You don't defend your choices to people who don't understand your path. Your silence becomes a shield. Let them wonder. Let them speculate. Your life isn't a debut tap, it's a strategy. The more you explain, the more they try to manipulate. But when you remain quiet, you stay in control. In leadership, silence commands respect. The most powerful leaders aren't the loudest. They don't scream directions or demand compliance. They observe. They speak when necessary, but with calm, sharp precision. People follow not because they're forced, but because the leader's presence speaks louder than his voice. His silence builds trust, authority, and fear all at once. The world rewards those who can sit with discomfort. Silence is uncomfortably foremost, but when you learn to live in it, to work through it, to use it becomes your strength. While others chase distractions, you face your thoughts. While others need noise to avoid pain, you use quiet to build resilience. That's how character is formed, not through noise, but through solitude. Silence is also how you protect your peace. Not every battle deserves your attention. Not every insult deserves a response. Not every invitation to chaos requires your attendance. Sometimes, the most powerful response is none at all. Let them talk. Let them throw stones. You stay silent. You stay still. And you let your progress answer the noise in time. There's a difference between silence from fear and silence from power. The fearful man is quiet because he's afraid of conflict, afraid of judgment. But the powerful man is silent because he's above it. He has nothing to prove. He has nothing to gain by engaging. His silence is not retreat, it's strategy. And when he finally speaks, the room stops, because they know he waited a broken bar and chose his words with purpose. Silence is how you win the long game. In the short term, noise wins attention. Outrage goes viral. Loudness gets applause, but it fades. It always fades. What remains is discipline, endurance, consistency. These things grow in silence, not in spotlights. The roots of greatness are not formed in public, they are buried deep in quiet effort. Sometimes silence is how you heal. When the world has bruised you, when betrayal has shaken your trust, when the noise becomes unbearably, silence is sanctuary. You withdraw, not to escape, but to rebuild. You return to yourself. You tend to the inner wounds. And in that silence, you remember who you are. You remember what matters. And slowly, you emerge stronger, more focused, less reactive. Silence teaches you patience. The man who can wait without anxiety is powerful. He knows not everything needs to be rushed. He knows timing is everything. And while others race blindly, he waits, not out of laziness but out of precision. He knows when to move. And when he does, it's always impactful, because it was never rushed up, it was calculated. Silence helps you see through illusions. When people talk too much, they often lie to themselves. They perform. But when you stay quiet, you listen for what they don't say. You watch their body, their tone, their inconsistencies. You notice what others miss. And slowly, the truth reveals itself, not in their words, but in their silence between the words. In competition, silence unnerves opponents. The competitor who taunts is seeking to disrupt you. But when you stay silent, when you don't flinch, when you remain calm, he begins to doubt himself. He realizes his tactics don't work on you. And that realization breaks him. Because the one thing louder than words, a broken bar, is presence. Your unshaken presence is your message. Even in learning, silence is necessary. You can't absorb if you're always speaking. You can't grow if you're always giving opinions. Silence is where growth begins. You sit, you watch, you listen, you apply. And in time, you surpass those who once spoke over you. Because you didn't need to prove you were smarter, you became wise in silence. Silence, ultimately, is the expression of mastery. It's the mark of the man who no longer needs to perform. He is grounded, focused, intentional. He speaks because he has something to say, not because he needs to be heard. He acts when it's time, not when he feels pressure. And he walks his path without needing to explain, justify, or announce. That is not weakness. That is the highest form of strength. That is why silence is, and always will be, a weapon. Emotional control is the foundation of real power. There's a war going on inside every one of us, a war between emotion and reason, between impulse and intention, between reaction and response. Most people lose that war every day. They get pulled by anger, ruled by fear, drowned in anxiety. They explode when criticized, retreat when challenged, and crumble when life doesn't go as planned, and they call it being human. But it's really just being undisciplined. True power doesn't come from being louder, tougher, or more dominant. It comes from the ability to remain calm when everything around you is screaming. It's the ability to hold your ground when your heart is racing, when your pride is wounded, when your patience is tested. Emotional control is not about being numb, but it's about being precise. It's about choosing how you feel and what you do, regardless of what others try to make you feel. The world is full of traps designed to pull you out of your center. People insult you to provoke you. Life tests you to see if you'll break. Challenges arise to shake your foundation. And the ones who fall are not always the weakest, they're just the most reactive. The moment you give your emotions the steering wheel, you've already lost, because emotions can't see the road. They only feel the moment, and the moment lies. The strong man pauses, he breathes, he waits, he observes, and in that moment of stillness, he reclaims control. He doesn't let anger speak for him. He doesn't let fear decide for him. He doesn't let sadness paralyze him. He honors the feeling, but he doesn't serve it. And that is the difference between the average man and the master. You will never be free until you control your emotions, because if you don't, someone else will. They'll say something you don't like, and suddenly, they own your peace. They'll withhold validation, and now, they control your worth. They'll manipulate your anger, your fear, your insecurity, and you'll dance to the rhythm without even realizing it. You think you're acting on your own, a broken bar, but you're just reacting to their design. But the man who controls his emotions, he sees through the manipulation. He knows when someone is baiting him. He knows when his pride is whispering lies. He knows when his feelings are temporary and shouldn't decide permanent outcomes. And because he knows this, he becomes untouchable. You can't provoke him. You can't shake him. You can't derail him, because he's mastered the battlefield within. It's not that he doesn't feel. He feels everything deeply, but he doesn't act on impulse. He watches it rise, and he lets it pass, like a storm passing through the sky. His emotions are visitors and not rulers. He treats them with respect, but not with obedience. And that's why he wins, because the man who reacts loses control, but the man who reflects gains clarity. Most people are addicted to emotional outbursts. They've never been taught to pause, to reflect, to understand. They've learned to lash out, to run, to blame, to collapse. And society rewards that behavior. It tells you to express yourself without teaching you how. So people express their wounds, their traumas, their set, and call it truth. But truth is found after the emotion, not during it. The man who masters his emotions becomes a mirror. He reflects the world, but he does not absorb it. He can hear insults and remain calm. He can face betrayal and stay composed. He can feel heartbreak and still move forward. Not because he's colder, but because he's trained. He's learned to protect his power, to shield his energy, to honor his mission above his mood. Control doesn't mean suppression. It means understanding. It means knowing what you're feeling, where it's coming from, and whether or not it deserves action. It's knowing that just because you're angry, doesn't mean you should speak. Just because you're sad, doesn't mean you should stop. Just because you're afraid, doesn't mean you should run. Emotional control gives you options. It gives you freedom. It gives you the power to choose. When you master your emotions, you master timing. You know when to speak, when to walk away, when to push, and when to wait. You stop living on instinct, and you start living on intention. And that's when the world starts to respect you, because people can feel emotional maturity. It's rare, it's magnetic, it's powerful. It makes others feel safe even in your silence. Look at the strongest people you know. They're not the loudest, they're not the most aggressive, they're the calm ones. The ones who don't flinch under pressure. The ones who respond with clarity, not chaos. The ones who can sit in discomfort without needing to escape it. They don't let the world control their inner state, and because of that, they lead, they inspire, they endure. In conflict, emotional control is your armor. The moment you explode, you give the other person power. They've pulled you out of reason, into chaos. But when you stay calm, when you respond instead of react, they feel their tactics fail. And nothing breaks a manipulator more than a person they can't trigger. Your peace becomes their punishment. Your composure becomes their confusion. In leadership, emotional control builds trust. People follow those who remain grounded under pressure. When things go wrong, they don't need a leader who panics. They need one who stays centered, who assesses, decides, and acts without emotional turbulence. That's the kind of leader who lasts, and not the one who makes emotional decisions and destroys trust when things get hard. Even in love, emotional control is essential. Relationships fail not because of a lack of love, but because of a lack of discipline. Anger says things love would never say. Fear builds walls love doesn't need. Pride creates distance love can cross. But when you master your emotions, you stop sabotaging. You stop punishing people for your inner storms. You communicate instead of attack. You listen instead of defend. And from that place, love can grow. In personal growth, emotional control is your compass. Every breakthrough begins when you stop running from discomfort, when you sit with the pain, when you face the fear, when you ask, why do I feel this? Instead of blaming the world. That's when you start to change. That's when you start to grow. Because growth requires stillness. It requires presence. And you can't be present when your emotions are in control. In decision-making, emotions are the enemy of logic. If you make decisions based on how you feel in the moment, you'll regret them later. You'll quit things that needed more time. You'll destroy things that needed more patience. You'll chase things that were illusions. But when you calm the noise, when you center yourself, you make decisions from a place of wisdom, not wounds. That's how you build a life that lasts. Emotional control also keeps your goals alive. Discipline isn't just doing what you need to do, it's doing it even when your emotions don't feel like it. The days you feel tired, the days you feel discouraged, the days you feel bored. If you only act when you're motivated, you'll never build anything real. But when you act with discipline, regardless of emotion, you become unstoppable. You can't lead others until you lead yourself. And you can't lead yourself until you learn to control your internal state. That's the real battlefield. Not the economy, not your competitors, not your critics. It's your own mind, your emotions, your reactions, your thoughts. That's where wars are won or lost. And the man who wins in Sadia wins everywhere. There will always be reasons to react. People will always disappoint. Life will always surprise. But you don't have to give everything a reaction. You don't owe everyone an emotional response. Sometimes silence is the response. Sometimes patience is the response. Sometimes walking away is the response. Emotional control gives you those choices. And those choices define your strength. The ability to remain calm while under attack is a rare and lethal power. It doesn't just protect you, it unsettles others. It makes them question their own power. Because the one who can't be moved can't be broken, and the one who can't be broken always rises. Emotional control makes you a master of presence. While others drift into the past or panic about the future, you stay grounded. You deal with what is. You see clearly. You act deliberately. You stay in the moment, because you're not overwhelmed by inner noise. And from that space, you operate with excellence. People will try to guilt you, shame you, provoke you. They'll push buttons. But if those buttons don't work, they lose power, and you gain it. Emotional control turns you into the one who can't be manipulated, who can't be baited, who can't be used against himself. That's a level of freedom most people never taste. The strongest men in history didn't rule with emotion. They ruled in spite of it. They had feelings, but those feelings didn't rule them. They learned to suffer without losing composure. They learned to win without arrogance. They learned to be betrayed without becoming bitter. And that's what made them great, and not the absence of pain, but the presence of discipline. You must learn to pause, to breathe, to observe, to wait before reacting. Every time you do, you get stronger. Every moment of restraint is another layer of inner armor. And over time, that armor becomes unbreakable. Not because you're pretending to be stronger, but because you've built that strength brick by brick, moment by moment, feeling by feeling. You don't have to yell to be powerful. You don't have to prove your point. You don't have to show how hurt you are. Sometimes, real power is walking away. Sometimes it's saying nothing. Sometimes it's doing the work quietly while others crumble loudly. Emotional control turns chaos into opportunity. It turns pain into purpose. It turns suffering into strategy. And in the end, what makes you powerful is not how you feel but what you do regardless of how you feel. That's the difference. That's the edge. That's the foundation. And if you build on that foundation a broken bar, nothing can break you. Domination is not about revenge, it's about mastery. There's a fire inside every person who has ever been betrayed, humiliated, or underestimated. A quiet voice that says, one day, they'll regret it. A burning need to prove something, and not just to others, but to themselves. Many mistake this fire for a weapon of revenge. They turn their pain outward, imagining that success is about making others pay for their disrespect. But true domination has nothing to do with revenge. It has everything to do with mastery. Mastery is the art of turning pain into power without letting it poison your soul. It's about taking what tried to break you and using it to build yourself. When you dominate out of revenge, your focus is still on the past. You're still owned by what they did, what they said, what they thought. But when you dominate through mastery, you stop looking behind. You focus forward. You use every scar as strategy. You grow. You evolve. You rise, not because you want them to hurt, but because you've decided you're done being small. Revenge seeks attention. Mastery demands respect. Revenge is loud. Mastery is silent. The one who seeks revenge is still chained to the story of their wound. They need the world to see their transformation, to feel their rage, to acknowledge their climb. But the one who lives in mastery doesn't need an audience. His victories are quiet, but absolute. He doesn't win to be seen, he wins because he can't be stopped. True domination isn't about hurting those who hurt you. It's about becoming someone they can't reach anymore. It's not about showing them what they missed. It's about becoming so elevated that their opinion is irrelevant. Mastery is when you no longer feel the need to prove anything to anyone. You prove everything to yourself. You live by your standard. You obey your discipline. You answer to your purpose. The world teaches you to chase revenge. But revenge is a trap. It keeps you tied to the same energy that broke you. It makes your power dependent on their failure. And that's not strength, that's weakness disguised as justice. If your drive is rooted in proving someone wrong, then they still have power over you. But if your drive is rooted in fulfilling your highest potential, then you are finally free. Mastery is about building a life so solid, so powerful, so self-directed, that no insult, betrayal, or doubt can break it. You don't dominate by reacting. You dominate by creating. You dominate by rising, not retaliating. Every time you resist the urge to stoop down, you rise higher. Every time you choose growth over reaction, you fortify your mind. That's how dominance is built, a brick by brick, habit by habit, not through obsession with enemies, but through obsession with excellence. The man who is ruled by revenge becomes a slave to emotion. His vision is clouded. His peace is destroyed. He doesn't build, he burns. But the man who is ruled by mastery becomes untouchable. His focus sharpens. His will strengthens. He doesn't need chaos to find his path. His path is purpose, not proof. Domination is not about who you beat. It's about what you master. Your craft, your mind, your emotions, your time, your reactions, your energy. Master these, and you will own a kind of power that no one can take from you. People may still try to bring you down, but they will fail because you've already risen above them by refusing to be like them. It's easy to destroy. It's harder to build. It's easy to lash out. It takes real strength to stay silent and stay focused. Mastery is the long game. It's patience. It's precision. It's consistency. It's sacrifice. It's showing up every day and doing the hard, invisible work when no one is clapping, when no one is watching. It's enduring the doubt, the loneliness, the pain, and still moving forward. Those who dominate don't waste time trying to convince others of their worth. They become so valuable that others have no choice but to notice. Not because they begged for attention, but because they became undeniable. That is the essence of true domination. Not noise, not vengeance, not drama, just results, just quiet, relentless mastery. You want to dominate? Stop talking, stop reacting, stop trying to prove yourself to people who are beneath your purpose. Build, grow, discipline yourself so intensely that your presence becomes power. Speak less, Execute more. Let your success whisper. Let your presence unsettle. Let your life become the loudest statement you'll ever make. Revenge is emotional. Mastery is strategic. Revenge feels good in the moment, but it fades. Mastery feels invisible in the beginning, but it compounds. Over time, it builds a foundation so strong that even your enemies have no choice but to respect it. That is the domination worth pursuing, of the kind that doesn't just defeat others, but outlasts them. The strongest people don't need to seek payback. They let time do it for them. They focus on becoming the type of person who is above petty battles, the type of person whose name is spoken with respect even by those who tried to destroy them. And they get there not by fighting fire with fire, but by becoming the fire. Domination through mastery is sustainable. It's not fueled by emotion, so it doesn't burn out. It's built on systems, structure, and relentless self-accountability. You can't be dominant in the world until you are dominant in your habits, in your mindset, in your discipline, in your standards. That's where it starts, and not with revenge, but with ownership. Every second you spend thinking about payback is a second stolen from your progress. Every ounce of energy wasted on proving someone wrong could be used to build something that proves you right, something that lasts, something that elevates you far beyond their reach. That is the essence of real strength, not in getting even, but in outgrowing. You don't need to show up at their level. You don't need to respond to their games. You need to become so focused, so sharp, so dialed into your mission that the noise fades. That's when domination becomes effortless, when you are no longer swayed by external conflict because your internal compass is set to excellence. Domination is about doing what most people won't: waking up earlier, working longer, thinking deeper, saying no to distractions, choosing solitude over noise, choosing growth over comfort. That's the sacrifice required. That's the level of seriousness mastery demands, and only a few have the courage to live at that level. But those who do, those are the ones who can't be denied. The most powerful men are not the loudest in the room. They're the ones whose presence speaks without a word, because they've trained their mind, they've hardened their will, they've developed a strength that no insult, no betrayal, no loss can undo. They don't act out of vengeance, they act out of vision. You want to dominate? Focus on becoming unshakable. Let them talk, let them mock, let them walk away. You don't need revenge, you need results. You don't need them to regret losing you. You need to become someone so powerful that losing you becomes their lifelong lesson. And that only happens through mastery. When you're focused on revenge, you're reactive. But when you're focused on mastery, you're proactive. You're ahead of the game. You're moving in silence while others argue in circles. You're evolving while others are plotting. You're building while others are breaking. That is how dominance is created, not overnight, but over years of silent, intentional, disciplined work. Most people don't rise because they're too busy fighting shadows. They're locked in emotional wars with ghosts from their past. But the man of mastery knows there is no victory there. The only war worth fighting is the one within. And once you win that battle, no one on the outside can touch you. Every insult, every betrayal, every loss can either destroy you or sharpen you. You choose. You can fall into the trap of vengeance and waste your power on petty pursuits, or you can use the pain to fuel your purpose. Use it to build. Use it to strengthen. Use it to refine, and become so good, so focused, so consistent, that domination becomes inevitable. Stop explaining. Stop arguing. Stop chasing. Stop justifying. Start building. Start refining. Start elevating. Start mastering. Because domination is not about reminding them of who you are, it's about becoming someone they never imagined you could be, and doing it so relentlessly that by the time they realize what you've become, it's already too late. That is the way of the one who chooses mastery over revenge. That is the path of the dominant. That is the mindset of the unstoppable. They will doubt you. They will mock your patience, question your silence, and underestimate your calm. Let them. Every time they do, it gives you more time to think, more time to plan, more time to prepare your move that they will never see coming. You don't outsmart the world by being loud. You do it by being precise, calculated, unshakable. So don't chase the spotlight. Don't scream to be heard. Let them think you're nobody. Let them overlook you, because by the time they realize who you really are, a broken bar, you'll already be ahead. Not by chance, but by discipline, by strategy, by silence, and by the unbreakable force of a mind that answers to no one but itself. That a broken bar is how you outsmart anyone, and that a broken bar is how you dominate.